Here we go. Episode number 2, The Business of. And this week I have a very special guest. Most of my guests I've known. This fellow I only just met. Introducing Robert Raiola at Sports Taxman on the Twitter. Robert, thank you so much for joining me.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine, sir. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the business of. All right, so Robert, you are a CPA and you are based in New York City, I believe. So tell us a little bit about yourself. So tell us who you are, a little bit about what you do,
Sure.
and then how did you get into tweeting about sports tax?
Sure. Growing up, I was a huge sports fan and always wanted to watch games and make believe I was calling the game. I thought about going to Syracuse, but I didn't want to go in there. Wound up going to small accounting school in New York Pace, which not that many people outside of New York have heard of, but it was good for me. And I always liked sports and wanted to try to marry the two together. And I worked for one of the big 6 firms at the time. And
Which one was that?
Deloitte and Touche.
Okay, I started my career back in 1992, working with Ernst & Young.
Okay.
I was more on the technology side than the audit and assurance side.
Yeah.
So just so you don't think I know accounting, because I really don't.
So, that I was with Deloitte, and then we merged with Touche Ross.
Yeah.
And I had always had an interest in individual income tax, learned about it. One of the partners and I left the firm, started our own firm, had our own firm for quite a while, wound up selling it to a different company, and was quite lucrative for us. And, I went on from there. What happened with the Twitter was I had just joined the firm, O'Connor Davies, and one of the managing partners said, "Come on, Robert, how are we going to publicize you?" And he said, "Why don't you join Twitter?" And I said, "I don't know the first thing about Twitter." And he said, "Come on, Robert, only twits don't tweet." So I started tweeting after that, and NPR picked me up and had me did a 2.5-minute commercial on me, which was great. Got a lot of publicity from that. So I had to play the game and grow the Twitter, and it's led to a lot of appearances, both on TV, radio, podcast, and
cool.
Just really good opportunities from being out there.
I did not know any of that. That's excellent. Okay, cool. All right, beautiful, cool. All right. So what do you do right now? Are you still practicing accounting? Do you still work for a firm, or are you just retired and just tweeting about that?
Davies. I'm still working for O'Connor Davies, doing a lot of tax compliance, tax planning.
Excellent. Well, that was a good time because it's after tax season, so now you got a bit more free time to do shows. Okay, so my biggest question, and again, I'm Canadian. People that know me know I'm Canadian, and I know you're American, and this is mostly going to be American based because I know you don't know a lot about the Canadian tax system, and things are different, a little different up here. But my first question is, as you know, what is a Jock Tax? And I have to enunciate it properly so people watching or listening will know what I'm talking about. So a Jock Tax, not strap, as my friends are like, you want to talk about jock straps? No, tax. What is a Jock Tax?
Sure. It's the tax that, let's say, a player on the Blue Jays, Biggio, comes to New York. He's playing against the Yankees. He's got to pay tax to New York. That's New York State taxing a non-resident, not tax, and who's not based in New York, but is playing a couple of games a year in New York. Right. So he's liable to pay that tax. If he's a resident of another taxing jurisdiction, he would go ahead and get a credit for that.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So, so how is that? How does he get, who takes the money? Is it like, the Toronto Blue Jays, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, so then they have to then figure this all out?
Correct.
And they have a whole team of you, and they have to so for each player, they've got to kind of figure this out?
Yes, they do it on across the board, unless guys get injured or whatnot. But
okay,
it's quite complicated. But they've got to do their work before we can do our work.
Oh, I see. Okay, so they have to then figure out. Okay, so they look at the Blue Jays, 82 games that they don't play in Canada. Right. And again, we're assuming a regular year. I know last year they played in Buffalo because of COVID, and that's a whole different kettle of fish. I understand that, but we're just talking a normal year, which I think this year is relatively normal. I think they're playing all their games in Canada. So the 82 games. So then they have to look at, okay, of those 82 games, they're playing this many in New York. They're playing this many in, I guess they play Boston. So that's Massachusetts. I didn't even know who else is in their friggin' division.
Baltimore.
Baltimore. So that's Maryland. So then they have to then look at all of their players. And is it the same for all the players, or
no, it could be different. Guys get hurt. Guys go up and down.
Forget the hurting and forget the up and downing. Let's just assume you're playing all, you're on the roster all 182 games or 162 games.
Yeah, you take their salary,
yeah,
and you multiply it by the fraction, the numerator of which is the games in the state, the denominator of which is the total games played in a year. It's actually called duty days, and it includes travel days and practice days or whatnot. So
I forgot about. I was just thinking actual games, but yes, they might be. So they might be in the States for like 10 days because they've got 3 here, and then an off day, and then another 3.
Right. It's not Little League. They don't travel the day of the game. So,
right.
A 3-game series is probably going to be 4 days.
Yeah. Yeah, because they might do 3 in New York, 3 in Baltimore, and then they might have a day off, and then they might do 3, somewhere else, right?
Even if they didn't have a day off before they got to New York, the day before is probably a day in New York because they probably arrived the day before.
I guess sometimes, I guess I look at the schedule and I see sometimes they're at home and then they're right on the road somewhere, right? Hockey is a little different because they're not doing. They don't do consecutive days. Right. They may have a back-to-backer, but there's usually a day or two. So then there's those travel days. So the tax is different than on a game day versus a travel versus
it's all the same.
It's all the same. So it's the number of
state could be different though. States could be different, whether the way they tax a signing bonus, the way they tax wages. Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of states that do this.
Okay.
And obviously, we always talk about how much money the guy makes. It's not the gross, it's the net. And when people ask me, where should I play? I said, well, sir, it's easy as ABC. Anywhere but Canada and anywhere but California.
Well, hold on. So hang on. Let me just pull up. I want to pull up one of your tweets. This one here. I'm going to pull this tweet up. Let me make sure everybody can see it. So you said, when is it better to be picked 3rd instead of 2nd in the NFL draft? The 3rd selection, Texas has no state income tax, will net more dollars after the number 2 pick. Who I forget who it was, but he went to Detroit.
Okay.
Didn't he?
Yeah, that's
That was last month, Robert. I don't remember what I had for lunch yesterday. Right. So okay. So explain.
Yeah, that's the slot when it's even though everything is slotted, the 3rd pick won't get as much as the 2nd pick. However, after taxes, the 3rd pick will net more than the 2nd pick because of the state taxes in Detroit and Detroit, the city tax, and Michigan state tax.
So you're saying Texas has no state tax.
Right.
Everybody's paying federal tax. Uncle Sam wants he's getting his cut.
That's the way it works. Yeah.
Yeah. Uncle Sam's taking his money. He doesn't care where and what you do, who you are. Uncle Sam's taking his money.
Yep.
But then the individual states. So Texas doesn't have, and who else doesn't have state taxes?
Florida, state of Washington, Wyoming, Tennessee. There's a bunch of states. Florida has Miami, Tampa Bay, and Jacksonville. So they've got 3 teams with no state tax.
Mm-hmm. In the NFL, and then they also got baseball, and they've got hockey, and they got whatever. Right. Okay. So in this case, then you'd be making, and again, everyone talks about, so everyone talked about, what about Kansas City, where the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, $500 million or whatever, godforsaken sum he's going to get. How's the tax work in Kansas City?
Sure. They have a city tax as well as a state tax.
Oh, really?
I wonder where he's a resident of, because he wound up having a quarterback camp recently for his wide receivers.
Okay.
And instead of them going to Kansas City to have the camp, they did it in Texas, where he's a resident of. Well, Texas and Tennessee, I'm not sure.
Well, he went to
doesn't have any tax.
Right. He went to Texas. He played at Texas Tech, I think. Did he not?
Okay. So then they did it probably in Texas. and he will pay no state tax on those days. So it makes a big difference to him, but he's still got to pay Kansas City tax in the duty day formula. And with a football player, Jeff, it's a lot harder than a baseball player. Baseball player, you take 81 over 162 and have some fun. With the football player, the way it works is on a road game, a player's still in the state, say in Detroit, 5/7 of the income because they don't travel till Friday or Saturday, and you still got to pay tax to Detroit. And if a player is a resident, not a resident, plays a full week in Detroit, he's got to pay on the full 100% of the income because he's spent Saturday and Sunday at home in Detroit. So it's very different depending on the sport.
Oh, I never thought of I see. I never thought of that because I only, as I said earlier, I was only thinking game days, right? But now I actually so the teams, if they're playing Sunday, they tend to travel Saturday,
right?
Right. So is it any part of the day? So it doesn't matter if they flew out at 9 a.m. or 9 p.m.
Any part of the day.
Any part of the day. Okay.
Right.
Cool. And now, so you're saying in Kansas City. So if Patrick lived in is that Missouri, Kansas City,
yep.
or that Missouri?
Yeah.
So he would have to pay obviously federal, Uncle Sam. He would then have to pay Missouri tax if they have any. I can't remember if that was one you said they did or didn't.
Missouri has tax, yes.
Missouri has tax, and then Kansas City, the city itself, also, or is that only if he lives there?
They have a tax on the residents and non-residents.
Oh, okay. So it doesn't matter.
But they have to look at how many days he spends in Kansas City. Again, on a home game, he's there for the full amount. On a road game, some road games he's only there from Saturday and Sunday. But if they fly to the West Coast, yep, they may go 2 days early. So it depends. And once in a while, Jeff, you see teams like the Eagles go west and they're playing Seattle, and the next week they're going to pay the Raiders. So they may not go home for a week. And they may practice in California.
I was going to
players, or they could practice in Nevada where there's no state tax.
Okay. I was going to ask you about that. If they happen to have back-to-back road games and the coaches say, "Oh, we're going to stay somewhere," so they sometimes so that's why sometimes they stay somewhere else. Now, do the teams factor this in? Like if the Eagles had to play in, the two West Coast, if they were going to play the 49ers and Seattle, do they then factor that kind of in, or do they do what's just best for the team? And if
that's right, they do what's best for the team.
They don't care about tax, and they don't care about, and that applies to coaches and
coaches, anybody in the traveling party. Yep.
So even like the like the admin assistant, you've got a young lady or a young man who's helping, logistics and whatever. So all of the team staff, it applies the same thing.
A couple years ago, my son was in high school and he injured his knee.
Okay.
And we went to the doctor, and the doctor happened to be the physician for the Jets.
Oh.
So we wound up scheduling surgery, not realizing that the night before the Jets were in Atlanta for Monday Night Football. And I was worried he's not going to show. He's going to be late. He showed up. I said, "Are you paying the Jock Tax?" He goes, "Yeah, tell me about it." And he did the surgery on my son, but he was paying the Jock Tax when he went down to Georgia.
Right. So what's the difference between a sports tax and a Jock Tax?
Sport tax is really another word for Jock Tax.
Oh, okay. So they're synonymous then.
Yep.
Okay. All right. I wasn't sure if they were two different things or if they were the same thing. Okay, got it. So now you told me which states don't have a tax. Which ones? I think I know this. I think California has the highest tax.
Yes, 13.3%. So that means when you count federal at the top rate of 37 and California at 13.3, you're taking home less than 50% of your wages.
So if they were to make and I'm going to just make the math easy. So if they were going to make $10 million a year to play for the 49ers, then they're paying $5 million.
Yes.
Plus or minus in just tax. And again, the cities may have their own. I don't know. Cities in California, are they like Kansas City?
No city taxes in California.
No city taxes in California. Okay. So if you're a free agent and you have the choice between California and Tampa Bay, and they're both offering you now, and maybe you don't know this, but do players factor that in?
Some players do. Some agents point it out. But you got to remember, agents get paid on the best gross number, right? So their goals may be a little bit different than a player's goals. But any player who doesn't consider this as making a grave mistake, at least hear them out and make the California team pay more so that the net would be the same as what he would get in if he wants to stay with the team back with that state.
Right. Okay. So that's why Tom Brady went back to Tampa Bay as opposed to going and playing for the 49ers. And I'm just making this up.
I'm sure it entered into the equation.
You think so?
Not a big factor at his age, but I'm sure he considered it.
At his age or his money?
Both.
Do you think Tom and Giselle are sitting there going, well, honey, you could make more money if you go more money for me? No, I think he came back only because I think he spent 2 weeks home with his kids. And he's like, I'd rather go get hit by a 300-pound lineman than have to spend time doing homework with my children. Robert, we both have kids. We know what that's like. That's what I think Tom did. I think Tom decided it was easier to get hit by a lineman than... I'm kidding, Tom, before all the Tom Brady fans start yelling at me on the Twitter over my comment there. Okay, cool. All right, so California has the highest. Who else has the higher taxes? Obviously, California. Why is California so high?
Minnesota's about 10%, and New Jersey has 10.75%. So there are other states that take you right up to that 50% mark.
Wow. Why is California? Why are they so high?
I don't know. They used to put out a list, and I used to publish it every year of the revenue they raised by sport.
Oh,
so it was a couple $100 million that they were raising by taxing athletes. And if you think about it, these athletes are non-residents of California. Mm-hmm. They can't vote. They can't do anything, but have to pay the taxes.
So, but don't they live there like 6 months of the year when they're playing? Like if you're playing for the
yes, you have to live there when you're playing.
Obviously, you're not flying back and forth to.
No, that's right.
Right. Patrick Mahomes isn't flying home to Texas every day. Now, I did hear that Phillip Rivers was still living in San Diego when he was playing that 1 year in LA, and he was driving. Now that's still within the state. I understand that, but he was driving like 3 or 4 hours each way, or however far. I don't know how far. I don't know how far San Diego is from LA, but that 1 year he was still commuting because his family was still there, and he's got 900 kids. So he was still going back and forth, but they had a special custom limo for him or car, and they were watching film, like him and the backup quarterback would drive and they'd watch film and they would, be productive on their drive. But I heard he was going back and forth. But yeah, Patrick Mahomes isn't flying back. So if Patrick Mahomes is a resident of Texas, because that's where he lives in the off season, but he's obviously living in Kansas City during the season. So is he a resident of both then? Is that how? I don't know how.
He's a resident of Texas, but you got to be careful. Kansas City, they may have a rule. I don't know off the top of my head. Whereas if you spend more than 183 days there, you may be deemed a resident.
I see.
So you have to be careful. Watch his days off.
In the chat, my friend Bruce Campbell says, darn, that is a lot of kids. He actually has 9 children. He could field a baseball team. He has 9 children, and Ryan Fitzpatrick, I think, has 7. And I don't know if he's trying to keep up with them or something, but yeah. But he has 9. He has 9 children. Little less than the million that I said, but still, that's a lot of kids. I don't know how many kids you have, Robert, but
3.
There you go. Imagine having 9 of them.
No.
All right. So again, it depends on the number of days, and that sort of thing. All right. So doesn't matter. That's just salary. It doesn't matter. Like if they make the playoffs, there's extra money. If they win the Super Bowl or the World Series, there's other monies along there.
That all counts in. During the season, you pay for your games played during the season. Matter of fact, the NFL used to pay players over 3 months. Now they pay players over 6 months. So they're getting a check for most of the time that they're there, and then time when they were sitting at home. If they were smart, they would have realized it's easier to budget that way. But if you get all your money up front and you save your money, you have an advantage because you rather have all the money in your pocket before extra time. So They just recently changed that. And in baseball, for example, the winning team of the World Series gets about $425,000 a player. Guys that were traded in the midseason get prorated shares.
Right.
NBA it's a couple $100,000 for winning it all. And hockey is, I think, $100,000 per player winning it all as well. So there is a benefit to winning the gold or winning the medal, Stanley Cup, or whatever it is. You do get extra money.
So Golden State was up 3-0, and Dallas came back last night to win the game to force a 5th game back in California, back in Oakland. Would it have been better from a tax perspective? Obviously, they want to win it at home. They don't want to win it on the road. They want to win it in front of their fans. But are there tax implications to that? If they had just won it, then that would have been it. They don't have to play more games, and then they still would have made more money because they're in Texas. No state tax, you said, right?
Right. It's a difference for like Luka Doncic. He's got an extra day or maybe 2 days in California. They probably, I don't know when game 5 is, or it would be game 5.
I think it's tomorrow. I think
in California. So
I think it's tomorrow night.
For most of the Warriors players are probably residents of California. It's kind of hard to not be when you're there as much as they are.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I never actually. So you're flipping it the other way. So you're talking about the Maverick players. So now Luka, he's got to fly to California. Probably, I would assume they're flying today. So he's there today and tomorrow. I don't think they would fly the same day. That just
they wouldn't do that.
That is just unless they're doing some sort of back-to-back. But no, in the playoffs they wouldn't do. Yeah, no, not the playoffs. So he's flying up. So now, assuming they're going to lose, and I'm a Mavericks fan. I'm a Raptor fan first, but being a Cowboys, and I like the Mavericks, since they're there.
Big Cowboy fan.
Big Cowboy fan. I know you're a New York guy. My oldest son is a Jets fan. If that means anything.
The practice facility is about 5 minutes from where I live.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. In Floringham?
Florham Park. Yep.
Flooring Park. Yep. There you go. Nice. Cool. So you must run into the players then, just at the local CVS, I guess. Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. That's cool. I'll let my son know when he watches when he listens to the podcast. So Luke, they're probably not going to win. It would be unlikely for them to come back, being down 3-1 and being, it's unlikely. So then he's going to have to fly there, and then he's going to have all this extra tax he's going to pay. Now he makes enough money that it probably. Do you think they notice it?
They noticed it the first time it happens to them. That's for sure.
Okay.
I had a coach tell me he used to coach for a California team when he went and was getting paid the same money from a state with no income tax. He said it's like I got a raise.
Because that affects, and as you said, even the doctor and even anyone affiliated with the team, right?
Yep, general manager.
Well, yeah, obviously, but I was thinking more of some of the admin people and but you even said the doctor, right? Just
yep.
Cool. All right. Now, does the sport matter? I.e., does baseball, is there different tax for baseball versus hockey versus if we just look at the top 4? So you got your football, your baseball, your hockey, and I don't know.
The one sport that's very different is football. If you did it, they used to be in New York, way back when in the 90s, they used to do it on games. Football, you only have 17 games. But when they do it on duty days, it's probably like 180, 190. So most sports are pretty similar, but football would be very different if they did it on games.
Oh, right. Because baseball and hockey, you've got 82 games, 84 games, whatever it is. Baseball, you got 162. Football, you got 17 now.
Right.
Used to have 16, now it's 17, and we're not counting playoffs and things like that, right? So.
Yep.
Now, is there anything in the contracts? Can they do anything? Is there anything when they're negotiating their contracts? Is there anything, or it is what it is?
You can put in language in some sports when a signing bonus, that the signing bonus is given for player giving up his college eligibility. He's not required to pay it back, and it's payable separately from salary, and it's non-refundable if he quits. If those conditions are present, which lately, most teams don't want to do that. The player can pull a signing bonus out of the state. I haven't seen that in a while, though, that would happen that way. One of the other problems with signing bonuses is if a guy gets a $500,000 bonus and he gets hit with taxes, he's like, "Drats, they're really killing me with taxes here." Well, not too fast. The IRS says if you get a signing bonus up to $1 million, the first million is taxed on withholding only at 22%. So wait a second, you're in the 37% bracket. They only withheld 22% of my bonus. I'm short 15%. Most players don't realize it. Why do I owe so much money, Robert? What's going on here?
Right.
Well, because you got a bonus, they only took out 22% when you should be paying 37%.
So then they would have to pay that at tax time. What's tax time for you? April 15th? Is that
April 15th in the U.S.? Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
You can get an extension unlike Canada.
Sorry?
You can get an extension to October 15th, unlike Canada.
Oh, okay. Okay, taking the 22 and not the 37, then he'd have to pay that. He or she would have to pay
right,
with their income tax return and things like that.
Yep.
So as a this is another question that wasn't on my little sheet I gave you ahead of time. So as a tax professional, would you take on a professional or semi-professional client because of all these rules and all these things, or would you shy away from them?
Oh, I would definitely do that. I mean, that's right up our alley.
Okay. I didn't know if it'd be just too much work and too many things.
No, it's all good.
It's all good. You can charge them more, and I'm sure you'd like to count Patrick Mahomes' money.
Yeah, that would be bad.
That would be you charge per whatever. Okay, so that's professionals. Now we're talking about the big sports. What about the soccers, professional volleyball? Not the big, obviously, Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady. We're not talking them. But what about the professional volleyball, beach volleyball, men and women? What about Olympics? How does that? What about the? Like I heard that some of the Olympic athletes get something if they win medals.
Yes.
So how does it work with and I don't want to, I'm not diminishing any of the other, the non-big four sports,
One of the things that you can do, if you're a broadcaster, you can form what's called the loan-out corporation, which is an S corporation with the principal shareholder being the talent. And the talent can contract with ESPN as opposed to the individual contracting with ESPN. And then the individual would contract with his corporation to put money there. The advantage of doing that is that you're an employee of your corporation, not an employee of the team. So you're getting gross dollars and you're paying yourself a salary through the S corporation. But that works out really well because agent fees are no longer deductible, except in this situation where they're in a corporation, they are deductible.
Oh, I never even thought about deductions. So
teams or employees don't like to do that, though.
Okay. All right.
They feel you're an employee of the team, not your own corporation.
Right. Okay. All right. So what about Olympic athletes then? Because like I said, I heard that, and correct me if I'm wrong. Again, I'm just remembering what I read. Maybe it was your tweet. Maybe it wasn't. So how does that work? So if you win the gold medal, so Michael Phelps wins a gold medal swimming, he got a bonus. Is that true?
What they have is 3 levels: one for the gold, one for the silver, one for the bronze.
Yes.
If you make under, I believe it's under $1 million, you don't have to pay the tax. If you make over $1 million, whatever you got, 25, 30,000, whatever it is, you have to pay tax on that.
Over top of the million.
Correct.
So the first million free.
No, you're paying state tax on it, but as far as the Olympics concerned, first million free.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Okay. And then what about college? Now, and I know, and I'm going to have a future show, hopefully one day, on the business of the NIL.
Yep.
But that's all new. That's all. And I don't think anybody from the tweets I've seen, nobody really understands. I don't think anybody really understands the NIL. NIL is name, likeness, and image. Name, image, and likeness, I guess, technically. Right? Because that's college. College can now capitalize on their, right? So if they're going to be in Madden, for example, EA can then pay them. Or if they're doing a commercial for, Wheaties or something.
It's interesting because they are going to get paid as independent contractors. So again, similar to our situation before, they're going to have no withholding on a big check from a company. So they're not going to get the gross. They're going to end up paying tax one way or the other. So they're going to pay federal income tax,
right?
State income tax, and U.S. Payroll taxes. So it turns out to be quite a bit of money, especially if you weren't expecting it.
Okay. All right. So, and for those of you that just popped in, if anyone's popped in is either watching or listening, this is the business of, and we're doing sports tax with Robert Raiola, chartered accountant, CPA. Sorry, they're called chartered accountants in Canada, Robert. CPA based out of New York, and we're talking sports taxation. Right. So if you're a college student, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but there's a million of them. And you and Wheaties or Wheaties says, we're going to pay you $1 million and we want to put your face on the Wheaties box for a limited time, special run, 10,000, whatever it might be. We're going to pay you $1 million. And you're the college athlete. You're like, all right, I can go buy $1 million house. But really, they're an independent contractor to whoever makes Wheaties. I don't know who that is. So Wheaties will give them a check for $1 million. But Uncle Sam, and if they're in California, if they're living in California, so if they're going to UCLA and they're living in California, then they're going to have that 50% of that they're going to owe in April.
Yes. You're going to have to pay where you play, you're going to pay.
Right. Well, I like that. Interesting. Okay. So then these kids have to have someone like you or good agents or something who understands that and tells them to sock that money away. Don't go and buy $1 million house in LA because they're going to owe $500,000 in tax come April.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay, so you mentioned broadcasters. So how does that work for like your Tony Romos, your Troy Aikmans, your Jim Nances, for example, your Jim Nances of the world? Because he's everywhere. He every weekend he's somewhere else broadcasting something, right?
Yep.
So is that just
same principle? Days worked, over total days worked, and they're paying Jock Tax as they go along to all the different states.
Oh, so the broadcasters too. So your Jim Nances and your Tony Romos and Troy Aikmans.
Easy to learn how much they get paid.
Mm-hmm.
And, very easily to say they were to stay for a football game. They got it 3 or 4 days before. They stayed one more day after. So the states do go after them as well.
Oh, okay, so even like the Rich Eisens who does his little podcast, but then he goes to wherever to.
Yeah, I think he's in California for that show.
He lives in California. He does a show in California.
Yep.
Yeah, and so, but then he'll travel possibly to Tampa Bay to interview Tom Brady, let's say, or Michael Irvin. Michael Irvin, I think he lives in Texas, and he travels back and forth, but. All right, so to anyone in any doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Uncle Sam and the states want their piece. They want their kick at the pie, etc.
Yep. And in America, the other piece that you don't have in Canada is taxability of lottery winnings. If you win the lottery in the U.S., you're paying tax. Again, federal and most times states. Certain states like California, for whatever reason, doesn't tax lottery winnings. But I know in Canada, if you win the lotto, you don't have to pay state Canada tax.
That is correct. We also don't pay tax on winnings at casinos, but you do. And I know I have some Canadian friends who have won not huge amounts, but they've won money at like the World Series of Poker and when they're in Vegas and whatever, and the money gets taken right there on the spot.
Wow.
And then I think there's a couple of companies that will help them try to get it back. There's a whole lot of paperwork. There's a lot of stuff to try to, but I think that money is, I think 50% of it, and I may be wrong on the tax, but money is withheld right there on the spot by Uncle Sam. And then we have to then do some, I've never gambled in the US. So, never gambled and won large sums of money. I may have won a few dollars at a slot machine or something, but yeah, I think money is withheld on some of those big prizes, and then they have to then do stuff to then for Uncle Sam to, they got to prove they live in Canada and whatnot, right? So, so it doesn't matter. So if it's a Canadian team and they live in Canada and they get, I think all the Canadian, I think the Blue Jays, I think everyone gets paid in the U.S. money. Yeah, I don't think they get paid in Canadian dollars. if they play for the Major League Baseball. Now, if they play for the CFL, they're not traveling to the U.S. anyways.
Right. It's all Canadian.
Because it's all Canadian and whatnot. No, I think the CFL way back many years ago did have a couple of U.S. teams, so then that same rate would apply.
Yeah.
Right? And then, so what happens when all right, so now the NFL expanding in UK. So Tom's going to Germany, for example. Tampa Bay is going to Germany. Jacksonville plays in London. So how does that, when they do the international stuff, is there
there's a tax in the UK, I believe is 45%, and they would get a credit back in the US at 37%. They can't get a 45% credit because it's higher than the US top tax rate. But they would have to pay tax going over there. That's why when they talk about maybe making a team there, you got to make it equal for players. They wouldn't want to go there if they pay more tax. It's all about the money. And if the US and the UK maybe works on that, maybe they could do that. But I don't think they go over there until they deal with these tax issues.
Oh, I didn't realize that there was a difference. I just kind of assumed if there was
some.
Sorry?
The UK is higher.
Oh, interesting. So they're losing money by going over there and playing, technically.
Yeah.
Oh, I did not. Okay. See, that's why I'm having you on the show. The little things I just didn't. These little things I didn't realize. Okay, so the UK has more tax. So Tom's losing money by going and playing in Germany.
He's paying more money in tax than he would if they played in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Or Tampa, sorry.
Yeah. Or either one. You're right in both.
Yeah.
You're right on both accounts. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so they get a credit for any foreign tax. So if they came to Canada, because they used to play, right? Buffalo, Buffalo's an hour from me, right? Buffalo used to do games up here, and then they kind of stopped that. I know Ralph Wilson didn't always like coming up here, and he like.
Yeah, I don't think the players would pay tax in that situation because the Yankee players that go up and play the Blue Jays, 9-10 times a year, they're not paying Canadian tax. Obviously, you're a Canadian background, Canadian resident, you would pay the Canadian tax.
Right.
And when the U.S. players go to certain states, they don't get taxed. Other states don't recognize that, and you would pay tax even if you're Canadian in certain states like California.
Right. My friend Bruce Campbell, who's also Canadian, says the European Union. So I guess that's different. So it's one tax across the whole European, whatever makes up the European Union. But they would get a credit for that, but they're actually paying more, and so they end up losing.
Full credit.
Is there anything they can do about that?
Nope.
And RJ Stadia says UK is not the European Union, to be fair. So I was generalizing probably too much there when it was coming. But is Germany part of the European Union? And so it would be is it the same rate? Doesn't matter if Tom's playing in London or in Germany. Is it the same rate? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay. That was a weird question. I didn't prep you for that one ahead of time. So I don't blame you for not knowing that one. But so very interesting. Okay. So they, and Bruce Campbell says yes. So they would be paying the same amount, but then they only get a credit for a portion of it. And they would in the US. Interesting. Now, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, any fines they get, and I'm thinking the NFL, I don't know what fines people get in other sports, but in the NFL, that's no longer tax deductible.
That is correct.
So you're saying before, if you and I think if you throw a ball in the stands, they fine you for everything in NFL. It's the no fun league. Roger fines you for everything. You look the wrong way and he's fining you. But before, so you could deduct that off your income tax before?
Before, it has to be greater than 2% of your income. But with agent fees, those type of expenses usually are, and guys used to throw the ball into the stands and then we'll get a notice from the NFL. They were $5,000 lighter in the pocket.
But then they could then write that $5,000 off.
Right, and it would be about a $2,000 tax savings. But
not anymore. So they changed the rule on that?
They changed the rule on all expenses, agent fee, conditioning costs, training, investment fees are still deductible, but in some situations.
Oh, okay. So go over that again. Sorry. So so Tom is paying his agent 2% or 5%. I don't even know what agents make. So they before they could deduct that, but they cannot now.
That's right.
Oh, interesting. And what were the other fees you said?
Accounting fees, training costs,
Training. Oh, okay. Right. So Patrick Mahomes is getting his wide receivers. They're going somewhere to train and practice in the off season. That's obviously going to cost them money. So before they could write that off, but now they cannot.
That's correct.
Oh, interesting. Now, would they? I guess the players pay for that. The teams don't pay for any off-season conditioning or any of that kind of stuff. If they're because you hear of players going to the Bahamas. You know, they're going to the Bahamas.
If they trained in the facility, they wouldn't have to pay for it.
Obviously,
right.
But you hear of players and stuff going to the Bahamas to train or work out or but that's all at their own expense. The team's not doing that, or the player, maybe Patrick's flying them down. I don't know how that works.
Yep.
I don't have a Patrick Mahomes as a friend, so. All right, that's awesome. I'm just looking at all my questions here. Yeah, so the Olympians, they have to pay, but then there's a bit of a break there. The other pro sports, rugby and stuff, the same sort of thing applies. But obviously the major four, it's probably higher just because they get paid more.
Right, that's right.
Is there any difference between what we used to know as gender, male and female? Is there any
No.
Sorry?
No, there's not.
Oh, no, there's not. Okay. And I know that the U.S. just came out. Was it women's? Was it soccer that's now they kind of equalized the pay between women's soccer and men's soccer? Correct me where I'm wrong, Robert. I'm just going by what I see on Twitter.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Now you had another tweet that I wanted to bring up, but I can't seem to locate it. You did. You were retweeting. No, I'm going to try and get somebody to talk contracts. Oh, yes, this was a good one. Let me see if I can throw this up on the screen. Let me remove. Okay, stop that. I just want to bring up this one because you often tweet these out during the season and during games.
Yep.
So you were talking about the minimum salaries here.
Yep.
So the minimum salary in the NBA is a lot higher than the NFL and baseball. That's interesting.
Yeah, NFL goes up every year. Baseball went up to 700,000 from about 500 and change. So these guys are not being paid bad wages. They're all getting paid well, and hopefully they're taking care of their money.
That's why they need guys like you. men and women like you to do that. So yeah, you often if you don't follow him on Twitter, you should. So and I also want to now this is one I never even thought of when I saw it. Again, that's why I wanted to have you on the show. Oops, I'm inviting the wrong thing. Because you often have some really cool tweets. At Sports Tax is his Twitter. At Sports Tax Man, excuse me. I want to pull. No, I don't want the whole screen. I want this tab. So explain this one. So the guy, the jockey in the Kentucky Derby.
Yes, the purse was to the owners of $1,860,000. The jockey gets 10%, which is $186,000. He pays a 25% agent fee and a valet tip of 5%. He'll receive $130,000 before tax, which is still not to sneeze at for 2 minutes worth of work, but is nowhere near. He's the reason why they won the race. It would be interesting if they ever increased his pay.
He's the reason they won the race. Had nothing to do with the
horses, but he had something to do with it. He gave him a great ride.
Now, what is a valet tip?
It's a tip to one of the workers around the track.
Oh, I see. Okay, so just like a car valet. So that's the guy that walks the horse out.
Could be, yes. Could be
the guy that there's the people that help get the horse in the horse
in the gate.
The gate, thank you. And just there's probably somebody that grooms them, and there's probably, or they have those on staff. Maybe the horse owner maybe has those on staff, or something along those lines, right?
Yep.
Right. Okay. So and the agent fee 25%? Isn't that a little?
25%
Isn't that a little high?
It's very high.
Because what's a baseball or hockey? Aren't they like 10%? Or am I dreaming?
Not on contract. It's usually maximum 5%. Some leagues a minimum of maximum 4%.
Why is jockey so high? Is it because it's only a 2-minute job?
I'm not sure.
Okay, that was when I read that tweet, I was like, oh, that's kind of it. I did not realize all of that. And then this tweet here, I'm just going because you have some awesome tweets. I love your tweets. So this one here, I like what you did here. So Darren had said the $1 superfecta, which is the first 4 horses, paid $321,000, and then you piped in and said the IRS will get its share. So how much of that will they?
Probably 47%. Depends on his other income.
Okay. So he's going to lose. So he's like, I got 300,000, but really he's losing half of that to.
Yes.
Is that all Uncle Sam, or is there state? I don't know
Uncle Sam plus states.
So is there any states where the triple count is run that has no tax?
There's certain states that don't have a lottery tax, like California, but I wouldn't be sure about the racing, whether that would be taxable in some of these states or not. I'd have to look that up.
Okay, yeah, no big deal. Just a question.
Sure.
Just a random, and then I'm just calling up some of your tweets because they are fabulous.
Thank you.
Wealth of information, and keep it going. So what did you say here? You said, so they said the Mets release Cano owe $2 billion, nearly 45 million, and then assuming he's a non-resident of New York and City and no longer works there, he'll save $4 million. So he's going to make money by getting cut.
That's right. But he got picked up by California teams, so.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, San Diego Padres.
All right, so there you go. Is it still showing Is it still showing while I'm scrolling here? I think so. So a unnamed bettor in Minnesota confirmed he's hitting the superfecta. There you said the IRS and the Minnesota Department of Revenue will get their share. Let's get through some ads. So he struck a deal. The name, image, and likeness payments that student athletes received are income subject to federal income tax, self-employment tax, state income taxes, if the state has income tax. That's what we talked about a little bit earlier.
That's very important to the NIL revenue. It's not tax-free.
So I'm going to do a show. I'm trying to negotiate with someone who, more of an NIL expert. And I don't expect you to know this, but is the NIL a good thing for college athletes or not? Do you think?
Well, it depends on, it has been all smooth sailing, but you hear all these stories about guys making a ton of money. I wouldn't think, except for the top athletes, that they would make a ton of money. But if the boosters get involved, who knows what could happen?
Right. Excellent. Okay. All right. Yeah, because I know it's still early days, and I know there's, from tweets I see and from some other things, I'm not sure if everybody quite fully understands it yet. I'm hoping to find somebody who will come on and try to explain it as a future episode. But all right, so let's go back. Add that back to the stream. So the number 1 pick, Trayvon Walker, will receive the standard 4-year affiliate worth $37 million. Then you said additional good news: Florida has no state income tax. Walker will pay the Jock Tax that we talked about earlier, just on the road games.
Some of the road games.
He
won't pay tax if they played
in Texas, for example.
Right.
And I don't know if they do or not.
Right.
You just retweeted that, so we won't cover that too deeply here. PGA Championship. The purse was $2.7 million. So to win, you get 2.7 million, and then you have all of these, and then of course, so then there's all the miscellaneous taxes that go along with that.
Yep.
There we go. Cool. Excellent. What else do we got here? The minimum salary for practice squad players is $11,000 weekly, or $207,000 for the season. A veteran can make as much as $19 per week, or $385 for the season, and that's I guess that's football.
Practice squad.
Yeah. And they get paid only 6 months of the year. Can they get paid through the whole year if they wanted to? Can they negotiate something with the team, or is that just kind of the?
I think they have to do it in unison with the other players, getting paid 6 months of the year.
All right. So, my friend Stapleton asks, were there tax implications to why Tom Brady unretired when he did, or is that just him being Tom Brady?
I think he's just being Tom Brady. He wasn't sure, and maybe he thought of what it was like. He liked to spend time with his family, and he decided he wants to play one more year. Guy's an incredible athlete.
Yeah. We talked about it earlier, Simpleton. I figured he spent a couple of weeks home with his kids, and he went, I'd rather get hit by a 300-pound lineman than have to sit here and do, homework with my children. Yeah. Bruce Campbell says, the big one in the U.S. tax code, when someone buys a business, they're often able to deduct almost the entire sale price against their income during ensuing years. As the tax guy, do you want to comment on this?
You write off the contracts. Bruce is correct. You would write off the contracts. So if you had $100,000 worth of contracts, then you would write it off over a couple of years. You would get 37% benefit.
And then he says, professional sports make serious use of this provision.
They do. He's right.
Okay.
Thanks, Bruce.
All right. And Bruce is Canadian. Look at Bruce, the Canadian, throwing in some U.S. tax stuff. I like it. Yeah. I didn't know a lot of this, right? So that's why this is awesome. That's awesome. Okay. So, yeah, excellent. I think that was all I had covered. I think, is there anything else you want to mention? Any other fun stuff around sports taxation? Anything else
the
that
NBA draft is coming up?
Yes.
I think the Magic got the first pick. So, again, that will get the most money out of the draft, and he'll get the benefit of no state tax on most of his wages. So that's whoever the number one pick is, it's a double win.
Now, I guess it happened in 1994 when Eli didn't want to play for San Diego, and they did the big switch with Phillip Rivers and all of that. But I guess really, if you're getting drafted, you're just happy to be drafted and to play somewhere. You're not worrying about the money and the tax, and you're not saying to a team, I don't want to come and they might in the movies, but I don't want you to draft me because of the tax.
No, they're not saying that. They're
just happy to get drafted and make their millions and deal with the consequence. Even at 50%, even if Tavon, what did you say he was going to get? Even if he had to pay tax, which he's not, but even if he did, that's still
a lot of money.
That's still a lot. It's more money than you and I make. I think I can safely probably predict. Don't think you're in the leagues of Tom Brady. Cool. I don't know if the chat has any more questions. There's a few of my friends stopping by that are in here. Bruce had a good comment. Stapleton had a good comment. But if you don't have anything else, then we're going to end this. And I want to thank you. Do you want to say, I'm going to throw you full screen? Is there anything else you want to say? Promote anything? Talk about your Twitter at Sports Taxman is your Twitter. Anything you want to say to the audience watching or listening at home?
Jeff, thanks very much for your time. Thanks for having me. Love to come on again, maybe after the NBA draft or some subject that will bring up a lot of questions. But again, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it. You are welcome anytime. I appreciate that. And I'm just some random guy that tweeted you and said, hey, can you come and do this? And you were nice enough to jump on and do that. So I really appreciate it. And I know people will watch this either. Some of people watch it live. A lot of people do watch it later. I am going to put this out on Spotify and other places and promote it. Feel free to tweet it out too if you felt like it. And no, this was fun. I want to thank everybody in the chat. Next week, and we were supposed to do this yesterday, but you had a conflict and we moved it to today. But next Tuesday, I'm going to be meeting with Matt, who is the CEO of a company called Liquid Bit
and they make, among other things, they make a game called Killer Queen Black. A lot of people in my community are familiar with it. I have a shirt from them, which I can't. Oh, here it is. So they were nice enough to send me. I got a Killer Queen Black global T-shirt. They make these for all sorts of different countries. The CEO of Matt come on and talk about the business side of starting and running a gaming company, because everybody plays games. Everybody, everyone, you may even play something on your iPhone, Robert, but, how do you start a company? What are the, you got to have investors, and there's obviously tax implications. If you have investors, they want a return on their money. So we're going to talk about that business side. Future episodes, a fellow is going to come on and talk about crypto. Do you get into crypto at all?
No, I haven't dealt with that much. Very little.
So we're gonna have someone come in and talk about crypto, as well as NFT, those non-fungible tokens. Someone explained to me why I can't just print out a JPEG and stick it on my wall. Why can't I just print your picture out? Why do I have to buy this NFT thing? So I'm going to get somebody to talk about that. We're going to have someone. Everyone's doing conferences. It's all conference season. Everyone I talk to, they're like, "Oh, I'm at a conference, but I'll have to do it afterwards." So a lot of people are traveling. I'm hoping to do a guy. Someone's going to come on and talk about influence marketing. So people like me can get paid to say, "Hey, this is sponsored by." And some of that and all that kind of good stuff. So there's going to be a number of episodes coming up in the future on the business of. And I've been running my own company for 30 years, and I just wanted to talk about the business side of different things. Nobody ever talks about that side, right? And no one ever talks about the tax implications of being an athlete. So that's why I had you on. Bruce, Simpleton, Lo-Fi, David, everybody in the chat, thank you for popping in. People that are watching at home, appreciate everybody. And that's it. We are going to end it and have a great day. I'm just going to do one little thing. No, I'm not. I'm just going to end the stream. Robert, hang on 1 second. Thank you, everybody. See you later.